Alright, for your Gumi Bento we're making curry, and the first thing you'll need to do is fry up some tofu. I got this recipe online and it makes some pretty delicious, crispy results. Here I have 2 packages of extra firm tofu, or about 28 ounces, which I've drained and set on some paper towels. Slice them into bite-sized squares, and then cut in half height-wise just to make them more manageable. Pop them into a bowl and boil up some well-salted water. I used about half a cup of salt to 3 cups of water. Pour it over the tofu, making sure it's totally covered, and let it sit for 15 minutes. Drain off the water, and pat the sides of the cubes dry as well as you can. The more water you take off of the surface, the less the oil will spit when you put it in the pan to fry it. For the next part, I'm using safflower oil. You'll need this or something else that says it's specifically for high heat, such as peanut oil. Cover the bottom of the pan you're using. The best kind of pan to use is a heavy cast iron frying pan or something like that, but this is the only thing I had on hand, so I had to make do with it. Bring the oil up to a high heat and drop in your tofu 4 or 5 pieces at a time, so you don't bring the heat of the oil down too far. If it's as hot as it should be, it should only take a few seconds on each side before the tofu turns a golden brown, so just keep turning until all sides are done and remove. I'm using 2 wooden spoons because I don't actually own tongs. Set the cubes on a plate lined with a paper towel. This is what you should end up with. Cover it up with another paper towel and an upside-down plate and set it aside. Now to chop your veggies into bite-sized pieces. You'll need 2 or 3 potatoes, peeled and chopped. Two or 3 good-sized onions. These are white winter sweet onions. Word of the wise, do make sure you peel all the skins off, or you'll have tough chewy bits in your curry. After those, you'll need half a bulb of fennel. I'll be honest, mine's looking a little ratchet here because it's been sitting cut in half for a few days in my fridge, but just cut off the stems of yours and any brown spots, like I am, and chop up what's left for the pot. Next, 2 bell peppers, an orange and a yellow. Clean the seeds and stem off and cut those into pieces as well. But be sure to reserve some of each color for your decorations later. Rinse all your veggies clean, and then get out your pot. Pour in a tablespoon or 2 of olive oil, and turn on medium heat. Use a popsicle, or rather a spatula shaped like one, and put them all in your pot, and allow them to saute. While that's cooking, we'll make the curry roux, but don't forget to keep stirring your vegetables. Heat your 4 tablespoons of vegan butter until it stops singing. That just means the water has all evaporated out of it. It'll sound like this, rather than the noise it makes when I stir it, which you'll hear here. And that's how it sounded initially when I first melted the butter in the pan. It took a few minutes to achieve this state. Next, add to your 5 tablespoons of flour and stir. Allow it to cook over medium heat until it smells like baked bread or maybe a pie crust. That just means the flour isn't raw anymore, and it'll turn this sort of golden brown color. Now to add your spice. You can use 2 tablespoons of pre-made curry powder or garam masala, but I don't have any, so I made my own mixture in this cute little cow bowl. I'll put more about the proportions and what you can substitute on the blog post, but this is what I used. 2 teaspoons turmeric, 1 teaspoon coriander, 1 teaspoon cumin, 1/2 teaspoon cardamom, 1/2 teaspoon cayenne pepper, 1/4 teaspoon black pepper, 1/4 teaspoon cloves, 1/4 teaspoon cinnamon, and 1/4 teaspoon cocoa powder. Mix in your spices and stir for a minute or so until aromatic and bubbly. Turn off the heat entirely and add a tablespoon of sweet chili sauce and a tablespoon of ketchup, or 2 tablespoons of ketchup if you don't have the sweet chili sauce or you don't want that extra bit of spice. Here I'm adding 3 tablespoons ponzu sauce, but you can substitute for Worcestershire sauce if that's what you have. Give it a good stir over medium heat for a few seconds, and then set it aside for later. Once your onions are just starting to become translucent, which will probably be 15-20 minutes or so, add in your apples. These are what adds sweetness to Japanese curry. I have a red apple and a green apple peeled and removed from the core here. I'm just taking a grater and grating them into the vegetables, mixing occasionally. To this I'm adding 1 cup of water and 2 cups of miso broth, but you can substitute for vegetable broth or imitation chicken broth, or just use water, as long as you have about 3 cups of liquid. Give it a good stir, and bring it to a boil for 15 minutes or so. To make it cook more evenly, this is an optional step, but I'm using this pink pigil toshbuta, or drop lid. You can also use a disc cut out of parchment paper with a plate set on top of it to hold it down in place of this. However, you can also skip this step entirely and just cover it with a lid. Once done boiling, it's time to add your roux. Just be sure to turn off the heat entirely or else you'll burn the roux to the sides of the pan. So, turn off the heat, add your roux, and break it into pieces. Stir it until the roux completely dissolves, and then turn the fire back on. Add salt to taste. This is about 2 tablespoons or so I'm adding here. Then, add your fried tofu, stir, and simmer for another 20 minutes or so until your curry attains the desired thickness. Japanese curry is thicker than Indian curry and more like a stew, so keep that in mind. Once finished, fill your heated thermos with it and secure the lid. This one is full of stars, so I thought it sort of matched my little Twin Stars bento box. Instead of rice, I decided to use spaghetti squash in this bento. Less calories, but just about as filling and very easy to prepare. Come on, I'll show you. Take your squash, remove the sticker, and stab it with a fork several dozen times around the outside of the squash to let out the steam while it cooks. Put it in the microwave for 10 to 12 minutes, and then take it out with a towel because it will be hot and slice off the end with the stem. Then cut it in half lengthwise and scoop out the seeds. After that, take a fork and scrape out the flesh, which will tear into noodle-like strands that give it the squash's name. After that's done, you should have something like this. Fill your bento with a layer of it, about 2/3 of the way full so there's room for your decorations. And now, time for the fun, yet tedious part. I was looking at an image of Gumi while I did this, and I used the red and green apple peels as well as white vegan cheese, orange pepper, yellow pepper, and nori. For the most part, the tools I used were just my nori punches, a knife, and my food tweezers. At the end, I also used my flower cutters and letter cutters to make shapes for the background. I also decided to add in these music food pics because I thought they were appropriate since Gumi is from the anime Vocaloid. One last thing I have is a cute little twin stars spoon I picked up to eat this bento with that matches the set pretty well. Package it all up and you are all ready to go. Sorry this request took so long. I was sick for a while and then life sort of happened, but as always, please leave any requests you have in the comments and I will try to accommodate you. And remember, there's no use spoiling your cabbage twice.